This will be for the con exercise, probability of at least one success. So you want to remember for probability that in terms of percentage, 100%, if something is 100% guaranteed, its probability is 1 in terms of a decimal, right? You just move the decimal over 2 places. 100% is the equivalent to 1. So the sum of the probability of an event and the probability of its complement is 1. In other words, if you add the probability of an event occurring to the probability of the event not occurring, that is going to equal 1. All right. And alternatively, if you want to find out if something does not occur, you just subtract from 1 the probability that the event does occur. So in other words, if you let an event equal A, the probability that it is not A is just going to equal 1 minus the probability that it is A. All right, so that's one concept you need to know for this exercise. Now, in this exercise, if you say at least 1, what does that mean? At least 1. Well, that could be 1, that could be 2, that could be 3, basically 1 or anything more than 1. All right, and the opposite of that is just none. Okay, and of course, none is just 0. So, since these two are complements of each other, if you want to find the probability of at least 1, you just take 1 minus the probability of none. All right? Because at least 1 and none are going to add to 1. So just like the probability of not A is 1 minus the probability of A, the probability of at least 1 equals 1 minus the probability of none. Okay, so you need to know that for this exercise if you want to write it down in your notes. All right, the other thing you need to know, if A and B are independent events, the probability of A and B occurring together is going to equal the probability of A times the probability of B. So when they're independent, you just multiply the probabilities. Okay, and you can extend this to anything 2 or more. All right, so if you flip a coin 5 times, you can just multiply the probability 5 times, because when you flip a coin, each coin flip is an independent event. All right, so you can keep going and keep multiplying if it's more than 2 events. All right, when Ryan is serving at a restaurant, there's a 0.75 probability that each party will order drinks with their meal. During 1 hour, Ryan served 6 parties. Assuming that each party is equally likely to order drinks, what is the probability that at least one party will not order drinks? And round to the nearest hundredth. Okay, so what did we say the opposite of at least one? The opposite of at least one is none. All right, so I am going to change this to the probability. Instead of at least one, I am going to say none. Without drinks. And remember, if you want to find the probability of at least one, you subtract the probability of none from the number 1. All right, so the probability of at least one is 1 minus the probability of none. Now, I do not like this wording here, so I am going to change it. I'm going to rewrite 1 minus, And what does it mean if there are none without drinks? Well, if no one is without a drink, that means everyone has a drink. So I am going to write that probability that every party or every person has a drink. Every party orders drinks. All right, I think it helps to write it in a different, in a translated form. All right, so right here it says there's a 0.75 probability that the party orders drinks. All right, so the probability that a party orders is going to be 0.75. And there's 6 parties. All right, so we're finding the probability that every party orders a drink. And what I am going to do is rewrite it. Actually, yeah, I'll rewrite it up here. So we have 1 minus, and the probability that every party, all right, there's going to be 6 parties. It says it right here. There's going to be 6 parties. And the probability that each one orders a drink is 0.75. So since these are independent events, it's going to be 0.75. That's the first party. The second party. The third party. The fourth party. The fifth party. And the 6th party. All right, these are all independent events. So this is the probability of each party ordering a drink. And there's 6 parties, so you multiply it 6 times. So instead of writing all that on the calculator, since you're multiplying 0.75 6 times, you can just do 0.75 to the 6th power. Okay, I am going to do this on the calculator and get an answer and round to the nearest hundredth. Okay, so on the calculator, I got 0.822, and nearest hundredth is 2 decimal places. So if the third one is less than 5, you just round it down, and we can keep the 0.82. All right, so that right there is your final answer, 0.82. You can put 0.82 or just 0.82, but do not put it as a percent. Put it as a decimal. When Hugo is serving at a restaurant, there is a 0.03 probability that each party will request a high chair. During 1 hour, Hugo served 10 parties. Assuming that each party is equally likely to request a high chair, what is the probability that at least one party will request a high chair? All right. The probability of at least one, what's the opposite of at least one? Well, that is going to be the probability of none. None request high chair. All right, so at least one and none are opposites. Those are complements of each other. So to find the complement, you do 1 minus that probability. Okay, at least one high chair. How many is at least one? That's 1, 2, 3. So the opposite is none. 1 minus the probability that no one requested a high chair. So the probability that someone does request it is 0.03. Probability that they request it is 0.03. So what is the opposite or the complement of that? Well, the opposite of requesting something is not requesting. So if there's a 0.03 chance that there's a request, it's going to be 1 minus 0.03 that the person does not request. 1 minus 0.03 is 0.97. All right, so the probability that one party does not request is 0.97. How many parties are there? There's 10 parties. Okay, and those are all independent events. We want to find the probability that no one requests the high chair. All right, so that's going to equal 1 minus, and each time somebody does not request, it's 0.97, and there's 10 parties. So basically, you keep multiplying 0.97 10 times over and over and over again. How do we indicate that? Well, we just say to the 10th power. All right. These parties are all independent, and the probability that you don't request is 0.97. So for each party that doesn't request it, it's just going to be 0.97 multiplied each time over and over again. Since there's 10 parties, you do it 10 times. So you just do it to the 10th power. All right. On the calculator, if I do 1 minus 0.97 to the 10th, I get 0.262. And it keeps going. Okay, to the nearest hundredth is 2 decimals. So if the third one is less than 5, you just round it down and keep it as 0.26. All right, so that right there is your final answer. So in the box, 0.26. When a customer places an order at Darren's Bakery, there is an 85% that the order will include some kind of dessert. One day, 7 customers place orders at the bakery. Assuming that each order is equally likely, what is the probability at least one will not include dessert? Okay, so as we've been saying, the opposite of at least one is the probability of none. Okay, so the opposite of at least one without dessert is going to be none without dessert. All right, and since that's the complement, it's going to be 1 minus that probability. Now let's translate this. We keep the 1 minus. What does it mean if no one is without dessert? That basically means everyone has dessert. No one without dessert means that everyone has dessert. All right, so that is the same thing. None without dessert is the same as everyone with dessert. So the chances of getting a dessert is 85%. Okay, so the probability of getting dessert is 85% or 0.85. Make sure you convert all these to a decimal. Okay, 0.85 is the probability of getting dessert. We want everyone having dessert, and there's going to be 7 parties. Okay, so if we were to write this equation, let me find some room here. I'm going to write it right here. 1 minus the probability that everyone has dessert. The probability that someone has dessert is 0.85. And how many parties are there, or customers? 7. So you multiply 0.85 7 times. So you just do it to the 7th power. Okay, on my calculator, 1 minus 0.85 to the 7th power, I get 0.679. And it kept going. Okay, nearest hundredth is 2 decimals. You look at the third one, if it's 5 or more, you round it up. So the 6.7 becomes 0.68. So in the box, you can just type 0.68. Okay, I highly recommend you translate these before you attempt to do them. just like I translated right here before I did any math. Highly recommend that. All right, last one. When a customer places an order, there's an 8% probability the customer will report a food allergy. One day, 12 customers place orders. Assuming each is equally likely, what is the probability that at least one will report a food allergy? All right, so we keep saying that the opposite of at least one is the probability of none. At least one with an allergy, the opposite is none with an allergy. All right, and you want to do 1 minus that probability to find the complement. 1 minus none with an allergy. And what does that mean? If we were to translate that, none with an allergy, that's 1 minus the probability that all do not have an allergy. All right? Always try to translate it if you can. None with an allergy means all of them do not have an allergy. So, if there's an 8% chance that the customer has an allergy, the probability of having an allergy is 8%. So that means the probability that the person does not have an allergy, that's going to be 1 minus 0.08. And of course, that's 0.92. So the chance that one person does not have an allergy is 0.92. We are looking at 12 customers, and we don't want them to have an allergy. So it's going to be 1 minus the probability that there is no allergy, 0.92. And there's 12 customers, so we have to multiply that 0.92 12 times. All right, 1 minus 0.92 to the 12th. And I get 0.632. Rounding to 2 decimals or the nearest hundredth. If the third one is less than 5, you round it down. So that's going to be 0.63. All right, so just enter that right in the box.